Hey guys, EDDBUD here, and I'm back with one of my world famous comparison videos. Today it's Fresh Foam versus Lightstrike, a battle of the sub 270 gram shoes in my UK size 11.5. Both of these are sleek looking numbers with a higher rebound midsole feel. Today I'm comparing the New Balance Fresh Foam Beacon 3 with the Adidas Lightstrike SL20. Got to be some stats first. The New Balance Fresh Foam Beacon 3. This one clocks in at 269 grams in my UK size 11.5. I think it equates to a US size 12. That's 9.5 ounces. We have a 6mm drop in the Beacon 3 and the SL20 from Adidas. This one's 256 grams, which is dead on 9 ounces, and a more considerable 10mm heel to toe drop. You know how this works. Upper first. Oh, it's almost like, I like that felt material. Feels a little bit like a pool table, and it looks like some mountains. I think I've had too much pizza. So we've got mesh uppers on both of the shoes in today's comparison, with a more foot-hugging upper on the Adidas SL20. This is the summer-ready version of the shoe, so of course as I'm doing this comparison video, it's windy and raining outside. I found it really breathable though in those warmer summer periods we've had here in the UK. You can literally see light shining through the toe box if you shine a torch by it, because that's what we do all the time with our running shoes, right? Both the sides through to the toe box are very vented, and some more considerable cushion here in the heel. Actually, the heel count is rather tall and quite wide in the SL20. There's some quite considerable padding there, which reaches around the ankle to the final eyelet. You could say that this shoe's quite low profile, and you'd be right. Lots of movement around the ankle joint there. I think if that's something that you crave in a shoe, then the SL20 will deliver in spades. What does it mean in spades? I like that. I don't own a spade. If you're the sort of cat that really likes room in your toe box, then the Beacon 3 will satisfy you. Oh yeah. I wouldn't say it's particularly wide, but there's just lots of depth there to the toe box. So if you've got big toes, then you're good to go. Both shoes have got a similar width in terms of the footbed. Underfoot is about 10.5 centimeters in my size anyway. I find the upper fit actually on both shoes relatively similar this time round, and there's a very similar length recorded here of 29.5 centimeters in my UK size 11.5. I think it always falls a little short of the actual measurements they give on the box. The tongues do differ quite a bit though in these two shoes. There's a much more padded effort here in the Beacon 3, and the tongue on the SL20s actually partly stitched in further down the shoe. So it's not really like a booty construction, it's literally stitched in here. Much more give in the laces on the Beacon 3. The ones in the SL20 have much less give to them, and I just feel you get a slightly better lockdown. You don't have to sort of crunch them up tight, they just stay where they are. Lace is always a bit of a weak point for me in New Balance shoes. They always have these elastic laces. I'm not a big fan of those. I just think the SL20s are slightly more refined upper with much better lockdown over the top of the forefoot. I don't really think that the heel flare on the Beacon 3 really helps the lockdown at all. Just feels a bit unnecessary. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, this sort of look. This feels a bit more traditional, this one. So on upper it's a win for the Adidas SL20. It's midsole time. So I spoke in great length in a past video about the midsole in the Beacon 3. Is it Fresh Foam? Is it Fresh Foam X? Well, it's Fresh Foam. I don't think there is a Fresh Foam X. Fresh Foam X might be where you've got little holes in it, but you can quite easily achieve that with a drawing pin. Certainly the Fresh Foam here is cushioned, but it's much firmer. There's a lot of rebound here in the midsole cushion. It kind of feels a little bit like those high bounce balls that you used to get when you were a kid that would bounce everywhere and irritate your parents and everybody that was around you at the time. Certainly does promote a very fast cadence though, wants you to pick up the pace. You feel very nimble in this shoe. I think both of the shoes in today's comparison actually suit faster paced running better than easy daily running. I'm not sure either of them are really slow mileage loggers. Even you can run those type of paces, but I feel some people might want a little more cushion than these two offer. They're firmer, more responsive shoes. I would suggest actually the Beacon's slightly wider midsole foot base is actually a little more stable underfoot. There's just a bit more foam here under the foot. It actually splays out a little bit, as you can see. I think both shoes here are pretty much ideal up to that 7 or 8 mile mark, but I think that slightly lower stack in the Adidas shoe just gives a slightly more exhilarating feeling when coupled with that 10mm drop. The SL20 just urges you to run a little bit faster, pick up the turnover a little more. It's just a tiny bit lighter as well. I can feel it on foot, certainly. So for me, I think it's a bit more in tune with a tempo day or where you're doing some speed work. I think if you're looking for a shoe that does lots of things pretty well, then the Beacon 3 could be the one. I think it edges things in terms of versatility. Then again though, I'm not sure I'd want to go perhaps any further than 10 miles in either shoe. The foams in these two shoes are vastly firmer than some of the other shoes that I've reviewed recently. There's a lot more response here than the foam in something like the Asics Nova Blast, for example, or the React found in Nike's offerings. I think one thing to note with the midsole in the SL20 is the inclusion of that torsion system. Obviously it was originally implemented to allow the forefoot and the rear of the foot to flex enough independently, but also support the midfoot too. It does seem to supply some form of rigidity to the shoe, and I feel it does benefit toe off a little bit. I'd suggest at least it does a little bit, to some degree, dictate as to where the shoe will flex. Running quickly at faster paces in both shoes, I have to say, is very enjoyable. I'm not sure I prefer one over the other for that purpose. I think they both do pretty well actually as daily trainers, and as such I'm going to call it a tie on midsole. Outsole now. I would suggest that the Continental Rubber outsole on the SL20 is the superior outsole of the two shoes. I think over a wider range of surfaces it shines in both wet and dry conditions. The Beacon strangely works better on more uneven ground. The lugs seem to provide a little bit more traction on gravel and loose stones, but don't fare anywhere near as well on very smooth or polished surfaces. Only problem is you find lots of small rocks getting caught in between these lugs, and some of them, as you keep making contact with the floor over time, they get embedded into the midsole material. An unwelcome attribute, especially if you're on a long run. You don't want to have to keep checking whether stones have got lodged in between the lugs on the outsole. I'm not sure of the rubber compound that's used on the outsole of the Beacon 3, but for me, we do know Continental Rubber does hold up really well over time, very durable, so I think it's a win for the SL20 in terms of outsole, much better grip and all-round traction with this one. It's value time. So value-wise, both of these shoes can be picked up for under £100 from most retailers. I have a feeling actually that the SL20 is probably the cheaper shoe on average than the Beacon 3. It always seems to be on sale somewhere, so do shop around, you're undoubtedly going to find yourself a good deal. I mean, right now some of the women's colourways are on sale for only £50, which is an absolute steal. The Beacon 3, being the newer model, seems to be holding its value a little bit more, but I have seen it as low as about £90. Value wise, I do feel that the SL20 is going to hold up a little better over time, mainly due to the increase of rubber on the outsole protecting that midsole material. Ground contact EVA shoes do seem to be very susceptible to early aesthetic wear, and though visual, that will start to affect the cushion over time. Perhaps some of the outer sections here could become a little bit uneven, and you start to get a shoe that doesn't have the same response as it had before. So I think I lean towards the SL20 in terms of being the better value shoe of the two. Perhaps those with a slightly more voluminous foot may want to go for the Beacon 3 though. There's not a lot in it between these two shoes, both very good value offerings. What are your thoughts and opinions on these two lightweight offerings from New Balance and Adidas? Let me know in the comments below. Musical interlude time. I've once again delved back into the back catalogue of Edwyn Collins. I love Edwyn Collins, real hero of mine for lots and lots of reasons. Back in the 90s, in a market somewhere, I picked up a copy of his album Hope and Despair. There's a super track on there called The Wheels of Love. It is one of my favourite Edwyn Collins tracks. It paints a picture of this guy in a bar who sort of lost his sweetheart and he just can't find the words to tell her, or even find any actions or impetus to tell this person that he really loves her. Another great track on there is called Testing Time. Edwyn's got the best song names ever. Ghost of a Chance is another really good one. If you can find this one, please do seek it out. Hope and Despair by Edwyn Collins. That's all for me for today. Thanks for watching through to the very end of the video. I much appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, and lots of you recently have been hitting that subscribe button, please do so and click the bell for notifications of when I launch those new videos. It helps the channel out a huge amount as well. If you give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's Ed Bud, and I'll be seeing you.